Hi, fifth graders. This week we're going to be practicing a very important reading skill and really just a life skill if you're going to be a good conversationalist with people. It's called summarizing. We also wanted to show you examples of how you can go back and forth between a notebook, a video, and then your online text. So remember, this is a video I'm making, so if at any point you wanted to copy any of these notes down, just hit pause. A summary is giving the gist of the story. And again, it's important in life because it allows someone to follow along with the major players or characters in the story and the big time events without you having to retell every single detail. To put it in perspective, if you were reading this chapter book, and I am going to use chapter 1 just because I know we've all read that before in my examples today. So let's say you're reading along and your mom comes in the room, or your brother comes in the room, or your auntie comes in and says, hey, what's going on? You don't want to literally have to go back to this first page and reread every single piece of information. So we're going to teach you a strategy to let people know what's most important, both character-wise and event-wise. And that strategy is right here. So again, you may want to pause this to copy down in your notebook. It's almost like an anchor chart. It's called Somebody Wanted, but then so. And I should have put a number 5 right there next to the so, because that's kind of the 5th step. So remember, I'm going to try and model for you how I take notes while I'm reading. So I actually do this every time I read a chapter for school. So I have the chapter book up here, and then I have my notes. I'm right-handed, so I keep them right here. So the first thing I'm really like, as I'm reading, I'm enjoying the story, but I'm also thinking about who are my major somebodies. So if you look on the first page, I promise I'm not going to read the whole thing aloud to you. It says, please, Otis, Ted said. If you let me come with you today, I'll owe you one. Just name it, anything. Ted was Otis's younger brother, and when he was determined to get his way, nothing could stop him. So right away, I just stop. I don't stop reading for long, but I just jot down my somebodies. I know Ted, and he was the younger brother. And then I know there was Otis, was the older brother. And these are notes. I'm going to show you how I can turn this into a paragraph at the end, but these are notes. So you might see me abbreviate bro. That's why, because this is note taking. It's not written work that I would submit yet. If you look next to step 2, wanted, it directly attaches to what those characters wanted. And so I put many little dash marks right here, or bullet points, because a lot of times these characters want many things. And I'm going to try and determine which one is the most important. That kind of guides the other events in the story. So right away we read that Ted wanted to go with Otis. Now that might not be the most important event, but it is something that he wanted, so I'm just jotting it down as I read. And just remember, this is not something I would turn into my teacher. This is called shorthand because I'm taking notes. All right, as we continue to read a little further into the chapter, you remember that the setting takes place at a Wyoming heritage park. So they're really looking at history. As you go through, you read about an old document called a treaty, and then that's something else that made my brain go, woo! It was something Ted wanted. He was almost kind of taunting or teasing his brother Otis. Ted wanted Otis to touch the treaty. And after you figure out who your characters are and what they want, the but and then and so kind of work together, especially these steps 3 and 4. So you'll see me draw an arrow right here that moves it back and forth because they do. So if you remember when reading the story, sorry about the zooming back and forth. I want to show you how I do this in real life. So when reading the story, Otis, the older brother, knew that he really shouldn't. Like Ted wanted him to touch it, but Otis knew he shouldn't. Right? But he did it anyway. So that's kind of a 2. He knew he shouldn't, did it anyway. He touched it. Then, when he touched it, they almost time traveled, right? There's that page where he looked up and he was like, whoa, where am I? I'm not where I used to be. You could tell it was like an older time, right? So he time traveled, but this is the part where it almost goes back to that but he time traveled without, Otis was without Ted. So then, that's obviously my big problem, right? The whole time, Ted really wanted to go with him, and he was supposed to be in charge of his younger brother, Otis was, and he noticed that when he touched it, even though he knew he shouldn't have, when he touched the document, the treaty, he time traveled backwards without Ted. And so now I'm thinking, is there a solution to this? Are they gonna find Ted? Or what is the character's next move? And because this is just chapter 1, guys, and I probably should have annotated that at the top as my heading. I like to do this for every chapter, because if you can summarize each chapter, then you can tell the whole story. So because this is just chapter 1, I'm guessing there's not gonna be a solution, or it wouldn't be a very good story. I'm guessing it's gonna be more of the character's next move. So I wanna show you my thinking on that, and then we'll talk about how to put it in a paragraph. Let's see here, I gotta get right towards the end. I think the next one's about, yep, there's chapter 2. So sometimes it helps me at the sew to review the end. So on this page it says, "No, Ted, around these parts," exclaimed the man. Otis thought his jaw would hit the floor. So there is no solution here, right? So I'm thinking, okay, if Otis is without Ted and he's time traveled back without him, what is his next move gonna be? So if you read right here, this piece of text evidence says, when you grabbed hold of that piece of paper, you were transported back through time. Regrettably for you, you must return the treaty to the end of the Oregon Trail in order to get back home. So his next move is probably gonna try and be taking that treaty to the end of the trail. And then if you look at this very last sentence here, speaking of which, here comes a few travelers now. So I'm thinking, if Otis knows in order to get Ted and get back to where he was supposed to be, he's got to go to the end of the trail, and then there's travelers coming, I'm guessing his next move is Otis will try and get back to the end of the Oregon Trail. So this way, guys, with this awesome summarizing strategy, if I took all that time to read chapter 1 and my teacher, mom, brother, auntie, cousin came in the room and said, hey, what just happened? I don't have to go all the way back through here, right? I can use my somebody wanted, but then, remember sometimes you gotta explain a teeny bit more back and forth, and so strategy. So when I go to actually write this out, I would write in complete sentences, Ted and Otis were 2 brothers. Ted was the younger brother who really wanted to go with his older brother, Otis. When they went to the heritage place in Wyoming, Ted wanted Otis to touch the old document, the treaty. Otis was old enough to know that he probably shouldn't have, but he did it anyway. Then he time traveled backwards in time, but he was without Ted. So Otis is now going to try and get back to the end of the Oregon Trail, probably by looking to join some of these travelers moving forward now. And I would just put that in a paragraph.